All right, so today we're working with this screen here, and this is called a LCD1620A. This has a what we call a backpack on it, and so this is an I2C backpack, and this is normally this board does not come with this chip that's attached right here. Normally you would have to use all 16 pins here. I think there's 16, might be 18, and then you'd have to wire this to your Arduino. But this has a simple I2C backpack that we have here with a basic pinout that we can use I2C for, and we'll end up having this ground VCC SDA SCL hook up to our board, and we'll have these SCA and SCL hook under our analog pins, and we'll have 5 volts and ground hooked into our backpack as well. This little potentiometer here, you can take a little screwdriver. I don't know if I can get the camera to focus. Anyways, this little blue block right here is a potentiometer. You can actually take a little screwdriver and spin this, and what that will do will actually adjust the brightness of this backlit LCD. So that's just a little add-on there, and we'll go ahead and wire this quick. So I have this basic jumper wire set that has positive and or female and male ends. We have the male and the female ends, and we can end up using this, and this is all connected. I did not strip this. You could strip these wires off from each other and then end up with them as separate wires. I kept them together because it's easier to track everything, kind of keep everything organized. But with this, I have ground, I have voltage, and then data back and forth with the other two, right? And so I have brown here. I'm going to hook that up to ground, and I have red hooked up to positive, and I have the other ones as signal wires. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in on the backpack side, and we want to pay attention to the colors because if we plug this in wrong, we can fry things. But it's just as simple as that, putting those pins on there. And then we're going to end up taking these and plugging these in. So we have these two right here, brown and red. Red's going to be 5 volt positive, and the other one's going to be brown is going to be ground there. And then we can end up plugging these two in the board as well. And give me a second here. In my notes, I've got, oh, shoot. SDA pin 4, AD4, SDA. And so if we look on here, SDA is orange, pin 4, and SDL is pin 5. So those can go in there just like that. And I want to double check. SCL is pin A5, and SDA is pin A4. So just to show you that quick, I have power, I have ground, I have those pins correlating to that, with SDA into pin 4 and SCL into pin 5. All right, so let's hop over and let's go ahead and quickly program something for this. Okay, so I started with a new sketch here and I just saved it. I saved it as LCD1620, the name of the screen itself. Why do we call it a 1620? Well, it's actually 16 characters by 2 characters. This is a text-based screen. So if we look here, it's 2 tall and 16 long. And this LCD has an address. You can have different address numbers, but this one happens to be a 0 by 27. I know that. You can also, there's other ways to figure that out, but this LCD just happens to be a 0 by 27. And then our basic pinout for this LCD, we already kind of talked about that when we wired it, but for the Uno, we're working with an Uno board, it's that A5 and A4 for the I2C setup. For that communication, that comms. Pretty much that's it. That's all the basic information we need to know here. That's kind of what I put out here. The one thing we're going to do with this program and this setup and this is use a certain library. And that library is Liquid Crystal dash I2C, right? By Martin and Frank here. It's this one right here. Already downloaded it. So this one will call up this library because this is an I2C and it has the I2C backpack for our liquid crystal display. You can use multiple different libraries. There's a bunch of different libraries out there that might work for this screen. But in this case, I just picked that one because it works for our programming today. So with that said, we're going to call up two header files to start with. And how we do that, and those two library files or header files or however we want to call them, right? We end up with that basic include like we used to, right? Include, not header, right? And include uppercase wire is the first one. .h. And this is a library that's literally in your Arduino toolbox when you download our Arduino IDE. This one's built in. This helps us for I2C communication, and is just the toolbox we need for those comms, right? And so a bit of that going on, and then we have to call up that liquid crystal I2C library. And so that also is an include. I2C, to C, .h, right? And that is for commands to our I2C or functions that we actually need to our from that we're going to use for I2C, right? This I2C screen. And pretty much that's it. That's what we need to start with. But we also need to establish and name an LCD. And so we need to use this header file, this library, and to use that and call up a screen and say, hey, we have this screen. We type in liquid crystal underscore I2C. And then we're going to name it. In this case, we can name it LCD. Actually, we're going to name it lowercase lcd. And then you're going to say 27 because we're going to give it its address. And then we're going to give it what size it is, which is at 16 by 2. And then we have to close that. And you can put a space here, just kind of make that look even if you'd like. But this is just naming the LCD, right? We're naming it, saying, hey, you have an LCD attached to you. It's called LCD. You can name it pretty much anything. You can put it as any name. But we called it lowercase lcd. And then we are giving its address and saying, hey, you're at this address. This is your home address, essentially. You have to dial into this, and then this is your size. That's all we're doing here. 16 columns, 2 rows. All right. That's it. That's it for the startup. And in this case, typically we've done the setup that only runs once, and then we've done a void loop that runs multiple times. As the board has power, it keeps on running. In this case, we're just printing something once to the screen. And because of that, we only have to really run the code once. So we can do all of our code, at least for this program, just right up in setup. We don't actually have to put anything in loop. You still have to have the loop. But we're going to just go void setup. And we have to initialize the screen. We have to first, say, hey, turn on screen. And then we're going to have to say, hey, turn on the backlight of the screen. And to do that, we need to call up its name. We need to say, hey, name LCD. We could have named this anything. We could have named it uppercase LCD. We could have named it, doesn't matter, water. We could have named it anything. But we called it LCD. And so we have to say, hey, LCD initialize, INIT. And all that's saying is, hey, LCD wake up. Or the LCD we named LCD wake up, right? And then we have to call up it again. We say lcd.backlight. Hey, turn on your backlight. And then we have to close that, right? So all that's doing is saying, hey, turn on your LCD, and then, hey, turn on your backlight for your LCD. So we can see the text. The next thing we could do is literally print to it. And in that case, we have to say, hey, LCD. You know how we said serial print before when we wanted to print to the serial monitor? It's the same thing. We're saying, hey, LCD print. And so say LCD, or the name of our LCD print, right? Print. And we do anything inside the quotations is going to print. So I'm going to say, hello, all saints, right? Exclamation point. Let's see if it'll actually print. It probably will. Those. But anything I put uppercase in here, it's going to do that on the screen too. So, as simple as our code is, right there, we're done. Make sure we close that line. But we're literally saying, hey, LCD, print this line. And so we don't have to put anything here. We still have to have that loop, but we're going to end up plugging in our little Arduino. I'm going to keep this up here, make sure everything's plugged in there. So you can see this. I'm going to plug it in, and it's just going to show it. Oh, it's upside down. So, so you probably shouldn't do this because it's not good to short things out like that or wiggle stuff around, but I have wires going every which way. So I just plugged it in and I haven't put any code to it yet, but that's just our basic plug-in. Once we give it power, we're going to select the COM, and I'm going to end up sending this code to it. Let's compile the sketch, and you should see here in a second, hopefully. Hello, all saints. It is backwards and inverted. That's just because our screen is mirrored, or our camera is mirrored. But that's essentially what you can do. And so that's just basic code. And there you go. We'll go from there. All right, I just want to show here quick that it says hello, all saint, because that original print statement right here is actually more than 16 characters with all the spaces and exclamation points. And so that's why it's cutting off some of that. So we should need to pay attention that we're only putting 16 characters in. But I also want to show that I can end up putting the same line in the loop. I can put that down here and to change it up, we're just going to go all saints with the exclamation point. I'm going to head up, upload after, I'm going to hit upload, and it should just upload there. And what's it's doing is it's printing it multiple times. So it keeps printing it, and it's filling in all of the characters. So that's why we don't want to actually run it down there. But we do want to print this once. And it is useful when we have, if we were to put a delay down here, of like, say, I don't know, 2,000, that would be 2 seconds, or let's go 8,000, right? And what that's going to do is going to print that every 8 seconds. See how that works. And with that delay, it might just, yeah, okay, now I printed it again. Okay, cool. So it's just going to print a new one every 8 seconds, and then it's going to fill up the whole entire top line and then start moving down to the second line. But there would be reasons in which you want to put data out in a timed manner like that, just like we did in serial, where we could put inches or sensor data in, right? But there's also something else I want to show you here. So we're going to put this back up here. Control X. Oh, Control Z. I do not want to delete everything there. So I'm going to end up saying Control X. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to code here for a second again. I'm going to unplug my Arduino for right now. I don't want any power going into it. But I'm going to delete this delay. I only want to print once. I don't want to print multiple times in this case. But I also want to print something on the first line, and I want to print something on the second line. And to do that, we have to say, where are we printing this? We have to actually put the cursor somewhere, and to do that, you have to tell the LCD where to put the cursor. And so you have to set the cursor. And so that's called SetCursor. And to do this, you're going to want to put 0, 0. And that'll set the first line. And then we can rewrite the same thing again. I just did a copy paste because it's easier. And don't forget to put those semicolons. But if we put a 1 here, it's actually going to move down the next line. So it's just like the same again. 16, we can adjust any of these to 0 to 16, and any of these from 0 to 1. Actually, I think it's 0 to 15. But 0 to 1 here. So what we're going to say is hello, comma, All Saints down in the second one. And we're going to end up plugging this in, and it's going to run that original code where it just does All Saints every 8 seconds. Oh, there we go. But until I upload this one, let's say upload. See, now I have first line and second line used, just with that set cursor. So that's just another thing I wanted to show you quick. Just putting things in the void loop, it runs an actual loop. And if we want to just have it as static text, we can just say, hey, print, or we can set this cursor and print. And just to show you here, if I shifted this 3 down, but still on the first line, it'll shift that hello down. Reloading the sketch. And it shifted it 3 down. So just simple, cool stuff. And we'll move on here, and we'll actually kind of manipulate this and run a sensor and print some data to this.